Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to Filzys Workbench. It's been a while since I've been working on something I like to share with people. Well, anyway, so I haven't been really doing much in the model building wise. My son eats up a lot of my time when I'm not working. As you can tell, my eye's a lot better than it was a couple weeks back or last week. It's still not 100%, but it's much, much better than it was. But I still got to use these. These are just cheapo magnifying glasses. Eventually, I get to go to the eye doctor to get my eyes tested so I can get glasses. Long story short. Any crap. So I took a break from one of my builds that I was working on, the F4 Phantom here. I've been struggling with it for some odd reason, so I just put it to the side for the time being until interest picks up again. It does, and it seems to be common around this time of year for me during the holidays. Speaking of holidays, it's been pretty crazy with the holidays lately, so getting down here is a rarity for me. I think once all the holidays are said and done, I'll be down here a little more. Hopefully my son will be able to, I can put him with me while I'm working on something and probably nap it or something like that. Any crap. So what I started working on was from my Tales from the Stash. I started working on AMK's 148 scale Kfir C2 C7. First things first, I opted for the C2 version. Basically, I'm building a supersonic bomb truck, so bombs are going to be loaded up on here. First thing I did with the kit, and I'm progressing with the build. This is the fuselage itself, painted the inside, of course, as you can see here. First thing I did with these, since I'm no stranger to dealing with multi-part kits when it comes to the fuselage, I actually glued the nose halves. These are actually separate from the fuselage itself to the fuselage. I did this for a reason because, like I said, I'm no stranger to these two kits with multi-part sections, and sometimes if you put something together first and then attach it to the fuselage, you're going to be dealing with problems. So this is why I did that, and this will make for less seams, as you can tell here. The fit look is very, very good so far. You'll see a little step right around here. That's okay, because that looks like a vent of sorts under there. This is okay. You don't have to worry about that. The actual aircraft has that. And that's what I've done so far in the fuselage itself. Everything else I'll be putting in place once all said and done. Now, after I did that, I went right to the cockpit here. As you can tell here, the cockpit's actually pretty decent for this kit. And it's not bad from a first release from AMK. I was expecting a little more, but for this, it's actually not, it's quite good. The detail on it is busy at least and decent at best. Now I say this because I actually looked at photos and it's okay. But as you can tell here, once you do the painting and stuff, everything comes to life and looks like a cockpit. As for the ejection seat, though, kind of disappointed by it. Kinetic's got a better one. I opted for the Mark 6. If I'm not too happy with it, I'm going to use it anyway. And the other reason why is because I'm probably going to build it with the canopy closed. So it really isn't going to make much of a difference. Unless I put a pilot in there. Then I might have to do some surgery to the pilot to get it to fit. Like you said, the cockpit isn't half bad. If you're not happy with it, you can always use photo etch parts to replace most of it, or you can use a resin aftermarket cockpit. Personally, I'm building this out of the box. I also had to attach the nose gear well to the cockpit tub. This is actually a multi-piece affair. You had your combing, instrument panel, control stick, back of the cockpit tub itself. And then you had the parts for the nose gear well, which is about 4 pieces. I was expecting a fight on my hands because I use primer, and since I use acrylic, I have to use a primer. But everything fit perfectly like it should have. And I actually did some test fitting to the fuselage itself, like the cockpit and the exhaust, the afterburner can, which is over here. And they fit perfectly, and so far it looks very, very promising. Speaking of afterburner, this is actually the actual afterburner right here. This is injection molded, by the way, and this is really, really nice. Of all the replicas of the J79s I've seen that were molded in injection molded plastic, this is actually the best one I've seen. I've seen some very good ones on a Hosokawa F104 kit, but that's better. And if you're not happy with it, you can always replace with a resin afterburner can. I'm happy with this. It's going to be hiding in the fuselage anyway. When I was doing the test fitting of the fuselage, I found out that they tell you glue the fuselage together when you put everything in, then put the afterburner can in. That doesn't quite work. I did the test fit first, and when I found out, then put the afterburner can in, it doesn't quite fit. It actually doesn't sit where it's supposed to be, the exhaust part. So this is one of the few times I'm glad I deviated from the instructions. I'm basically going to glue the can in first into here. That's what I'm going to be doing. Now, as for the paints I'm using, for the cockpit, I actually used Life Colors Dark Gold Gray. Life Colors an acrylic paint. I'm still getting the hang of the paint thinner ratio in the airbrushing, but hand brushing, you can't beat this. This is actually better than Polyscale, which is no longer available. It's a very good acrylic paint. It's a unique paint because it basically blends itself in. It melts itself together, making a nice coat, and it's self-leveling, which is an even bigger plus. However, I do not recommend using Tamiya thinner or anything alcohol-related because it'll turn into a coagulated mess. So I do recommend using their brand thinner or distilled water. But once it dried, I did all the painting, the black, the grays, and whatever else. I did my wash, which was a Payne's Gray, which is also I used in the nose gear well. I used Payne's Gray with a little bit of lighter fluid. I used to use mineral spirits. I use that for the bigger areas, but lighter fluid's great for small spots. It also evaporates and dries faster, which is just leaving you the pigment, and all you gotta do is wipe off the excess. That's actually pretty good because it's not that bad. With the mineral spirits, you gotta do a little bit more wiping, but also with the lighter fluid, it doesn't do as much damage to the paint as mineral spirits would, because for the interior, I used Tamiya's Gloss White. Now, it's great paint, but it's kind of fragile, and unlike Life Color, which is pretty rugged and would stand a beating, as long as you let it properly cure when it's done painting. Don't mind the washer in the background, it's actually dumping into the slop sink. It's almost the same thing. Nice area, but still gotta deal with that. Kind of like what I did in my in-laws' basement. But like I said, everything went together well. Now, I was checking with the combing to see if I could fit it in after I glued the fuselage and the cockpit together. No, it wasn't happening, so I had to glue the combing onto the instrument panel. Speaking of which, with the afterburner, back to that, I used burnt metal from Gun Sanguine for the interior. I used the black wash. Now, burnt metal is my go-to for exhausts and for interior of afterburner sections because it's dark and gritty. I followed it up with a black wash of ivory black, lighter fluid, give it more of a sooty stained finish, which is what I was looking for. And the good part about the guns is it dries flat, so it takes it rather well. As for the exteriors, I ended up using guns as steel. I sprayed that, let it dry for a good day or two, so this way it would cure, especially when I put the wash on. And this looks really good. This actually looks very good for an injection molded engine, exhaust in general, and it's really, really nice. The best one I've seen so far before that was Hoskow, and even it wasn't that great, and that was on their F-104 Starfighter kit. Speaking of the engine that was provided in the Kfir, the J-79 was, the reason why it was picked by Israeli Aircraft Industries for the Kfir is because of commonality. They were also flying the F-4 Phantom, which also used the J-79 at the time. So it made it and other reasons, it was far more reliable. It wasn't as thirsty as the French-built ATAR engine, which was used in the Mirage, and was also used in the Nesher, which was flown by Israel. So that's the other reason why they used it. As for the section here, when I was speaking of the area, I used metallic gray for the inside. They tell you to use steel, but I wasn't too keen on that, so I went with metallic gray from Tamiya. Metallic gray is my go-to for almost everything when it comes to metallic sections. Or metal sections, I'm not too keen on. So it's kind of like hot sauce. I put that on everything. Basically what I do. I actually used the metallic gray on an F-15 kit, and it actually looked like titanium plates. I was cheating this kit. Don't mind me, I have an itchy nose. As for the rest of the kit itself, so far everything seems promising on this build. A friend of mine, a friend and a fellow modeler pointed out the way they had the sprue gates for the fuselage section. is everything, all the sprue gates were under here, so it avoids, so there's less filling and sanding along the spine. That is a nice touch, and I'm glad he pointed that out, because when I did the test fit of everything, especially starting with the fuselage, everything seems to fit perfectly. AMK really put a nice kit out, and if you can't find the kinetic kit, or you're leery about the kinetic kit, you really should give the AMK kit a try. As I said before, it's not as, detail is not as extensive as the kinetic, but it seems like it fits a lot better. Now, on this kit, the intakes over here, they're blank. Yeah, it's not as involved as the kinetic kit was, so it's just blank here. But to be fair, the Mirage, the way their intakes are set up, that should really be a non-issue unless you're a glutton for punishment, or you're one of those guys with advanced modeler syndrome saying, I need one of those. You go ahead and do that. Personally, you can get away with that. On this kit, you can get away with it. Nobody's really going to notice unless you bring it to a model contest. But back to the nose section here, as you can tell here, everything seems good so far. Like, I don't see much trouble in the filling and sanding department, although, and like I said, the fit is like a dream. I didn't put this section in yet. I'm still doing the cockpit and the afterburner section before I install it into the fuselage and glue everything together. I just got to make sure every part is in place. But I'm really, really enjoying this kit. It's great progress so far. I'm really having fun with it. This is all I got for now, so I will keep you updated on the next video. Hopefully it won't be as long. Well, for 3 of you that watch, that's about it. So take it easy, happy modeling, and hopefully I'll have more progress after that. Have fun.